Hello, I'm Vanessa Stoikov, the CEO of Evolution Media and the publisher of Evo TV. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing you to a world first. 3 years ago, we pioneered the business community with Slivercasting and the Mastermind series. Now, we bring to you our specially made entertainment series. The first of these series is brought to you by our news director, Louis White, and explores the heroes of business and sport. Elite athletes at the top of their game in business and on the sporting field. I hope you enjoy the series, one of many you'll be seeing from Evo TV in the future, built for you, our business community in Australia. Enjoy the show.
This program brought to you by the legendary performance of Pengana Capital. Pengana Capital, vision in action.
Hello and welcome to today's show. Today our news director Louis White interviews Jason Ball, former dual AFL Premiership player and now stockbroker with Macquarie Private Wealth. Enjoy the show.
Welcome, Jason.
Thank you, Lou.
As a young child, growing up in the backyard, what sports were you into playing?
Typical background, played Aussie rules during the winter, cricket during the summer, and sort of fielding the basketball around the areas, but really enjoyed it.
Which clubs approached you back then?
I had about a dozen back then actually. The AFL is a draft system, and West Coast had a priority pick which was pre the draft, due to their club and team being new to the competition. So they were fairly keen, they followed me through from state football, and they took me ahead of the draft. So in the end it became a bit of a moot point because no one else could pick me up.
So 1992 was your first year at the club, is that correct?
Yes.
West Coast won a premiership. You played, I think, one game?
Played one game, played the first game of the year, played in Sydney, played on All-Australian player Mark Bays, and never made it back to the senior list. They were very good though. They allowed me to travel with the team through the final series, so I learned a hell of a lot back then as well. We played Geelong twice that year and obviously got up in the grand final pretty comfortably.
So 1994 was the year you started playing regularly.
I think confidence, Louis, was a big thing back then. I suddenly played a few games and realised that I actually belonged, or I felt comfortable with my teammates and where I was in the game. So, and from there it sort of snowballed and played the rest of the season out.
And grand final day, were there just nerves?
It's a bit of a blur. I remember one of the best bits of advice I got is when you get onto the ground, take in the atmosphere. Don't worry about football for a few moments, just sort of take in the spectators and the noise and then go back to what you've got to do. And it's funny, when the game starts, you don't actually think about the crowds. You're too busy working out where you are in the game and what you have to do, and it's more about where you fit in with your teammates. So you forget very quickly the occasion and you fit back into game mode.
And what's the feeling when the final siren rings, you've won the premiership? Is it just every dream come true?
It is, but you're sharing that dream. I think that's what makes it so special. I mean, coming from a team environment, you get to share your success. So after the game, once the siren's down, the first thing you do is look for your teammates. And it's all that hard work, and it's not 1 year or 2 years, it's the whole career you've put into it. It's all the sacrifice from your mates at 18 or 19. I mean, they're out in the town, they're enjoying life where you're sort of sacrificing a lot of your time, a lot of your social life to achieve something. So, and you get to share that on grand final day.
What was sort of the catalyst for you deciding you wanted to move clubs?
It was a new change for me. It was from Perth, very much a fishbowl environment. They are very much AFL orientated, front, back page, middle pages of the newspaper, first and last story on the television. So for me it was a bit of an escape where I could just concentrate on football and not have to worry about too many other distractions. It was probably my wife summed it up best. We were in the hotel room back in Coogee Bay here in Sydney, and she said, you're going to go, aren't you? And I hadn't really and it was sort of, well yeah, I can't see any reasons why I wouldn't go. A new change of good, a new coach will do me good. The chance to earn respect again and go through that process to make sure I'm dotting my I's and crossing my T's in my football career would be a good thing for me.
Woman's intuition, would you say?
Yeah, I think so.
So how was the 2005 finals?
Look, again, we didn't allow us to think too far forward, and we went into Perth the first round of the finals and we got beaten on a dodgy umpiring decision. So it was, again, one game at a time. We had to go back and play Geelong. Geelong were an upcoming team. Then we had to play St Kilda. St Kilda were one of the flag favourites that year, and we weren't expected to win that game. And suddenly we found ourselves in the grand final. And for me personally, it was terrific because I'd sort of made up my mind that my body was getting old. I'd played for 14 years. It was time for me to move on. But on the flip side, I couldn't think of a worse team to lose to because it was the team I'd spent 8 years with.
So how was the win in 2005? Was it like, this is it? Can you compare grand final wins playing for different clubs, or was it just totally different?
Mine's a bit different because I had obviously a 94 flag and a 2005 flag, so I had 11 years between mine. I probably felt I belonged a lot more to the Sydney group because I'd been through the preceding 5 years in terms of what it took to build our playing group and our culture, whereas at West Coast I'd sort of been drafted into that culture and hadn't helped establish that culture. So probably the Sydney win had a little bit more meaning for me, and I got to share it with my children, my wife, and all those sorts of things as well.
So looking back over your AFL career, 2 highlights of grand finals. Any other memorable moments that stick out?
I think being part in building the culture of the Sydney Swans Football Club, which is so highly held today, is something I'm very, very proud of. And the friendships and the mateships and the camaraderie that I've got coming away from football has helped me enormously in business, but give me a lot of confidence in general.
And your lowest sporting moments?
It's probably injuries, to be honest. It's injuries and confidence. And the only way to get your confidence up is to work harder, and I've learnt that. And it's not something you learn straight away. It takes you a lot of time and experience to learn those sorts of things. But they're probably the 2 of the lowest things. Being injured and being frustrated about not being able to play, and turning your confidence or turning your season around.
So did you leave a satisfied sportsman at the end of your career?
I think so. I left on my terms. Like, I probably could have gone another year and been a grumpy sportsman who'd been injured and got old and win in and out of the team, those sorts of things. So I was pretty happy that the way I finished up my career.
This program brought to you by the legendary performance of Pengana Capital.